Hello everyone, this is Mini Ninjas here. For the first time in a while, we have something new in the mailbox to talk about. Namely, the Counterattacking K from Demoniacal Fit, aka their version of the Resurrection of F Goku look, otherwise known as Whis Goku, Whiskey Goku, or any other version of the acronym that does exist. I just reviewed toys and hope they don't break on me, not make sense of the names. All jokes aside though, you can consider this $49 alternative here a kind of the unofficial update to the original 1.0 Goku that was released quite some time back and was, suffice to say, very dodgy in terms of how the character was represented in this form. As you can kind of see though, it's a little bit of a, I'm going to say loosely a budget release because there's not a lot of accessories going on there. You got quite a few hands there, kind of a 3 different sets plus the transmission hand, 3 faces, and the effect piece, and pretty much that's it for that. But in terms of the general presentation, as we do the quick height check, I'm going to have to say I actually really like what I'm seeing here. Height-wise, by the way, is, I'm going to say just a little under 6¼ inches tall, which puts him at about the right height for him compared to all the other standard Gokus, by the way. And as we take a look, can't help but immediately notice the metallic blue hair color, which is actually a slight bit lighter, maybe a few shades lighter, than the original movie Broly Goku look. Which actually is quite nice because that matches up to what it was having in the original Resurrection of F film. Not to mention, the haircut is going to be a unique sculpt in this case, as the bangs are actually specific to how it was in that original film, as well as, I believe, a little bit in this Arc and Super, which subsequently did not get repeated as they put him back to regular Super Saiyan hair after that. In terms of the articulation checks, as you can see, moving around the upper body, and I'd say most of the figure, I'd say as a whole, the joints themselves were a little stiff right out of the packaging, but everything is holding nicely together and has the right range of motions, except for maybe like 1 or 2 odd quirks, like the neck in my case, on my figure, is not moving as much as I'd like. It's a little stiff around the bottom part of the neck. And as you can see, the wrist here, it's a little bit stilted because of the general look of the, general handling of the wristbands, I find. But once with a little bit of adjustment, just kind of tugging them out a bit, I was able to get them to move a little more freely. And also different sets of hands made it for a little more motion. Going for the action body check here. Yep, the hips are correct. The leg movement is not actually hindered by the soft plastic skirt at all, which is a nice change of break. The previous figures were having a bit of issue, or at least some of the figures I've reviewed in the past have had issues with that in particular. But in here, generally no problem. Oh, it is worth noting the ankle movement is going to be a little stilted because of the way that the boot's been cut. But it's pretty much, that's kind of a known conceit with a bunch of official figures too, so I'm not going to dock it too much. Toe joint, very stiff, very nice on that one. All in all, the figure moves exactly as you expect it to, and has all the articulation that you expect out of a real official figure. In terms of faces, you honestly get what are pretty standard with most Gokus at this point, being a smirking face, a serious face, grimacing, and yelling, and this particular one is no exception. It's worth noting there's this weird slot at the bottom of the hair, which feels like it's supposed to be grabbing onto something, but none of the faces have a component that will actually attach to it, so as a result, it's kind of just floating there, which could be same for some of the faces. In my case, all my faces here fit properly, so that's not a much issue, but it's worth noting that there's nothing really that's holding the faces in place other than just the general friction of things and maybe a little bit of the bangs. So you might want to be wary about how well they fit on there. Here's how it looks with the various faces, by the way. As we're about to take a look at the hands, which, by the way, I'm going to adjust the video quality a bit in terms of lighting so the details are a little more visible. It's honestly worth saying that if you were to put these beside other official hands, I would have a lot of difficulties telling the difference, because in terms of the sharpness of the detailing on there and just the general quality, aside from maybe a little bit of flash on a few fingers here and there, it's very difficult to tell the difference. And in terms of how well these go on the wrist pegs, honestly, I had no problems whatsoever removing the hands and putting the new ones on there with minimal effort. Maybe if 1 or 2 hands where it accidentally pulled the wrist peg with it, but it's easily reinserted. So all in all, it's a very nice improvement to see that they definitely managed to figure this part out, at least on my particular release copy here, because I know that was definitely an issue we had in the past with their Vegito and their Goku Black aka Chosen One's release. And as you can see, as I move into things about there, yep, no, everything moves exactly as it's supposed to, so quite pleased with that. Kind of adjusting the lighting on this particular bit of footage too, because it's actually rather hard to capture this particular effect on camera, but the energy ball effect is somewhere between kind of being a little bit frosted as well as translucent on the same time. And honestly, it's just really nice to look at, especially once you get the actual energy beams on there, which also go from the same kind of translucent look to it to a general faded gradient into the same kind of blue that you have for the hair color at this point. So, yeah, it actually looks really nice. You can kind of guess. Yes, I know we did the same thing for the not the Tenacious Martialists, but actually rather the Chosen Ones, aka the Goku Black clone, which had the same effect piece, but I just feel this is a really nice color handling for that. And in terms of everything on there, with the exception of like the one little beam that you can kind of see on the camera there, everything else fit in there flush with no real issues and is holding up really nicely. So, hey, it works as a nice effect, but it's a pleasant addition. Speaking of that, we have the one last addition, which is technically out of the box in this case, being the copied version of the event-exclusive stands from last year, which is kind of based off the newer style of action stands that they've been putting out of late and really advertising on their Twitter account, to my knowledge. And basically, it is exactly what you expect. They must have just had a bunch of surplus or a bunch of these from the Tenacious Martialist release, and they've just been tossing it on there. Is that a bad thing? No. Is it still a pain to get the things to come out? Absolutely. Which is why they do it off camera. But once you start getting things on there, yep, everything is pretty much still the kind of the nice twisted finish on there. You have the 3-prong things which will be able to hold the character up just real fine. And aside from maybe certain bits I might want to tighten off camera, generally these things can be assembled pretty easily with no real effort. Suffice to say, I would not exactly be offended if they decided to continue including this style of stand with other Demoniacal Fit releases in the future, because they do the job very well and they're frankly just really nice to look at. So, there. As you can kind of guess from the more positive spin I've had on this figure up to this point, yes, I do happen to enjoy my copy of the Counterattacking K figure on here, as it honestly is a really nice 2.0 style revamp or update on the original Whis Goku figure that was frankly by all standards pretty fugly and unpleasant to look at. Didn't match the character at all. Well, this one is much more on model, fits in more with the standard collection or the more modern collection, and for the price point is, I feel, very fairly priced. So at least if as long as the quality continues to be something like this, I could safely recommend this one. That being said, on another note, if anyone wants to address the elephant in the room and how I feel about this between the Kong related video, leave a comment if you want me to seriously do a comparison between the two. Not my immediate thought to doing, but if you really want to see my thoughts on that and kind of do some initial comparison between that and more official figures and other stuff that have been up to this point, leave a comment if you really want to see that. That being said, thanks for watching. Catch you all later.